And today I have the pleasure of welcoming Rehmannia as our speaker. Hello, Rehmannia.
Hi, Laura. Hi.
Thank you for being part of this event, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with the audience. So Rehmannia is a thank you. Rehmannia is a Taoist tonic herbalist in the Gate of Life lineage, a 5,000-year-old herbal system from China. His experience with Chinese herbalism began in 1985 during a visit to herb farms in northeastern China. After returning, he and his then Chinese wife made tonic herbal tinctures in their kitchen. And then in 1998, the Rehmannia met master herbalist Ron Garden and became his personal apprentice until 2006. After that, Rehmannia created his first business, Shaman Shack, where he formulated groundbreaking tonic elixir formulas. And then in 21, Rehmannia left Shaman Shack to create his new connoisseur line at Super Tonic Herbs. Rehmannia studied Chinese medical diagnosis at Alhambra University and obtained a master herbalist degree from natural healing. And he adheres to the title Master Tea Garden gave him as superior herbalist. And Rehmannia also has written 9 books. So pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So
a lot of years writing.
Yes. And could you tell the audience about basically your journey, into stepping into your purpose, connecting with Chinese herbalism so that we can understand your journey into your useful purpose?
Well, big question, Mariah. We all have quite a journey, and that's the beautiful thing about the old souls that we come in contact with now. Our journeys are sometimes very varied
Exactly.
among the destinies that await us, and it's quite fascinating when they unfold for us. And mine being a Taoist tonic herbalist in a 5,000-year-old lineage of herbology from Asia, it was quite fascinating for this guy from Kentucky to fall into that great fortune of being taught by a great master. What I know and believe deeply is the most wonderful and sophisticated system of herbology that exists. Now, I don't mean to downplay other forms of herbology, but the more that we talk, I hope that you will agree that some of the sophistication that the ancient masters in our lineage, which is essentially Taoist, their observations about health, human physiology, and about how we pursue our destinies of mind, body, and spirit by maintaining harmony of those 3 energies empowers us to live incredibly vital, adventurous, and fruitful lives. And that is our goal. The goal of my lineage is not to act like some kind of a physician or a healer. It is more so to help provide you and guide you and inspire you, everyone, to have the tools by which their lives can be lived to their very fullest. And the tonic herbs have been, over the 5,000 years of their use, they've been highly regarded for exactly that, for helping imbue a sort of a totality of the consciousness and the physical life of the person, that when taken along with a healthy diet and taking the right herbs can expand your life in ways that are quite remarkable. And I've seen it happen over the 23 years now that I've been practicing tonic herbalist.
Wow, fantastic. And so how did you get started on that path, actually?
Well, I mentioned it to you when I told you my background, but I met a Chinese woman when I was 21, and it made a lot of difference in my life. She was my first guru and teacher. And first thing she had me do was read the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, which I probably read 1,000 times after that. And then we wound up getting married, and we went to China in 1985 on our honeymoon, and her parents joined us on our honeymoon, and her parents were the tour guides. And her father wanted to go to northeastern China, the Manchurian province. He'd never been there. So he planned our tour to go up there. And that coincidentally turns out it was the place where the herbs of the gate of the lineage of my lineage of herbology are traditionally grown up there in the northeast of China. And let me make this point right away, that because some people think, oh, aren't Chinese herbs tainted with chemicals? Well, no, not really. It depends again on the quality that you're buying. But when you go up into that northeastern Manchurian province, where the great and the most renowned tonic herbs are grown, that area is very protected. Geographically, it's similar to Vermont and New Hampshire in the United States. It's very clean. There are no big cities with pollution. There are mountainous areas, and it is the people there live very close to nature. So when I happened to go up there in 1985 during our honeymoon, I saw these collectors coming out of the mountains in their mule carts. And there were these munchkin little, wind-blown people coming out of the mountains, and their cart had the wet ginseng roots and astragalus roots, all that they just picked, and reishi mushrooms. And I looked at this and was fascinated by it. And then that same night, I went for a late night walk, and I went out of the hotel and went around back of our hotel. There was an alley, and in that alley, all of those carts had come. If I'd had a window in it, our apartment, our room in our hotel had no windows, but if there had been a window, I would have looked out into this alley. And I stumbled into this place, and all of those carts were lined up, and the people had these little propane flames for light, and they're just sitting on their carts like this, and their clothes looked like burlap bags, like hung over them. And they're just like, it was so ancient, dirt floor alley, the little flames, lighting their faces, and the glistening ginseng roots. And I was so fascinated that my ex-wife and I came back, Sharon. We came back, we were living in San Francisco, and we decided to get a book about tonic herbalism and learn. And we found this book called Tonic Herbs by Ron Teagarden. And we started making tinctures at that time. And I just remember riding up the hill on my bike to go to work. I would have to ride up a trail hill, and I'd be like, whoa, man, I'm just flying. And like, not fatiguing. I was like, this stuff's for real. Well, then fast forward, she and I, we parted in a beautiful way. We remained friends. And then I went back to LA, and I wound up meeting Master Herbalist Ron Teagarden and became his personal apprentice for 8 years. So that was my training.
Beautiful. And I love the calling of just, it sounds to me that the herbs called you, basically,
Yeah,
from your journey.
Yes,
exactly.
Indeed. Yeah.
And so, oh, go ahead.
No, just go ahead.
No, so can you tell me, or tell us a little bit about, for the people in the audience that are not very familiar about tonic herbs, what are they really? And I know this is a big question, but how can someone use them on their journey? So if you can expand on that.
Fantastic questions. Okay, tonic herb is based, the word tonic, of course, is an English translation of whatever the Chinese word is, but that word comes from Greek, and it was used by Hippocrates and others. And it means to tonify, means to tune the strings of an instrument into harmony, where all of the strings are resonating in harmony. If you have a musical instrument, and I know I play guitar, if one string is out of harmony, the whole thing is out of harmony. And so those 5 strings have to be tuned, and that's tonifying the energies of this guitar so that when it resonates, its energy, it's in tune to make a chord, to make a sound that is not dissonant, that is harmonious. Well, we have the same issue in our bodies. We have 5 organ meridians, 5 organ systems, and we have primary energies in the body that we want to tonify so that when they are acting in harmony, we are in harmony of the body, mind, and spirit. It is harmonious. And when when the body and mind and spirit is in harmony, we can walk a road that we call the Tao. And this is Taoism. The Tao means the center place between the 2 forces of yin and yang, which we refer to as dualism. And dualism is a law that we are beholden to in our earthly consciousness, that is a law of where there are extremes at work in everything. And that's what creates the dynamic by which we evolve. So you have hot and cold, and male and female, and black and white, and all that. That's the extremes. So humans want to balance and walk in a state and live and think and dream in a state that is in the center between those two forces, and that's called the Tao. And that is essentially what the Taoist spiritual discipline is about. So the tonic herbs are Taoist. In fact, the tonic herbs were developed before Taoism was even, Lao Tzu wrote the Tao Te Ching in 500 BC. But our herbal pharmacopoeia goes back to about 2900 BC. And so the masters of our lineage created the concepts that became Taoism because they were looking at the body, mind, and spirit. And they said it has to maintain homeostasis of balance. When it does, it's in the center place. And it is impervious then to the pull of those forces of yin and yang. So briefly, that yin and yang is at the basis of our philosophy of how we view health. And I'll tell you now what yin and yang means, because it's fascinating. Yin means the accumulation and storage of energy into an organism. And yang means the use of that energy by the organism. That is the way that it was seen with regard to human health. And so what we do is we need to accumulate and store energy. So we call that gathering chi. Chi is the energy of life. Sunlight is the original chi. So we're gathering sunlight. We're gathering sunlight that's concentrated in a fruit. That's a concentration of sunlight. We're gathering that through the nutrient of chi. We're gathering the chi out of the air through our breath and qigong. We're gathering chi through our eyes and our skin, the sun. And that then is resonated into the blood, and new blood is formulated through this process. The blood then attains hemoglobin and iron ions, and just getting to iron alone is an amazing thing. And then how that chi is expressed through the metabolic processes and through the respiratory process and everything else, and the cognitive processes. So it all comes down to, what are we gathering? Are we gathering chi? And so the tonic herbs were found to be very high in the deep, root orientation of those essences that we're trying to gather. Now, we must also have a healthy diet. We have to eat food that's got sunlight in it. Eat food that has sunlight. What happens when you cook the heck out of your food? What happens when somebody dries it into a powder? All of this stuff, sunlight is being taken out, is less chi. So we gather the right chi, and then we take tonic herbs along with a healthy diet. And the tonic herbs have been classified to help us gather chi in specific ways. Some of the tonic herbs help us gather chi for our daily energy needs. Others help us gather chi to hold in a deeper holding space that is said to be in the kidneys. And this energy is called Jing. And Jing is the primary energy of our bodies and our reproductive capacity. So when we're gathering chi, some of this is used right now for us to talk, and other chi is resonated down kind of like on a fan belt, and there's a battery down there in our kidneys that's holding some for the future. So when we're using chi right now, we're talking, right? We're using it. But when we use stored chi, this energy is called Jing. What is that? How do we express stored chi as Jing? The procreative act, the birthing of a new life, the stress response, creativity, adventure, lovemaking, and all of the adventurous activities of life, the extracurricular activities, we might call it. Yeah. That's stored chi. That is Jing. That Jing is held in our kidneys. So the next time that we need to run that bike, run that race, or get through that deadline in our work, we can draw up some of that chi that we have stored, is Jing. Jing is what we call the first treasure. It's the stored energy. Now, Jing is easy to see in human beings today. You can see who has stored a lot of Jing and gathered the right chi. And Jing is an epigenetic energy. So it comes from our ancestors. So Jing is considered like a bank account, our savings account that's held for our use, and we give some of that to our children. So it's epigenetic. Okay. So if you want to understand the actual root of your life and how much chi your ancestors were gathering and saving for you, you look back at your great grandparents on both sides, your grandparents and your parents on both sides. What kind of chi were they gathering? Were they out in the sun? Were they eating blueberries from the vine? Were they drinking water from a clear stream? Were they physically active, right? And then if you find a person whose ancestors were all living like that, you will most likely find a very robust person who is impervious to disease, who is ready to take on any challenge, who is creative and adventurous, who is probably pretty attractive in the ways of just because of that sexual energy is powerful. They're holding a lot of that. That's Jing. Now, conversely, if we look at the world today, and one of the big dangers that the masters of my lineage seem to have foreseen long ago, is that Jing is being dissipated because people are not gathering qi. What are they doing with what is a white bun, and what is American cheese? How much qi is in it, right? And so we're being robbed of that investment and so people are walking around with sluggish energy, which turns into atherosclerosis and cirrhosis, and then not storing any. And so people get sick easier, and people are not aging as long, and they age sooner, and they lose their vitality, their creative adventure, their zest for life. And you can see this when you look at people. And then if you ask them, you'll find that their parents or grandparents were living in a city eating junk food, and probably worked in an office somewhere where they weren't gathering sunlight. And so we're seeing this. Now, the beautiful thing that I learned, because I prayed to help humanity, I could see this problem. I could see our young people losing their vitality, and many things getting out of balance. Was, as we see now with neurological hormones and stuff like that, and gut flora, all of that, we're seeing these problems in young people. Well, the ancient masters, the orientation of our lineage was not, like I said, to act like doctors. It was to help people live long, vital lives. In other words, to store qi as Jing, so that they can have healthy children for the next generations, and then live a nice long age and be up there hauling around up in the mountains, carrying a big bag of herbs when they're 110 years old. And that's what the masters wanted to be doing. And so they searched for herbs over the thousands of years that tonified Jing. And they found herbs that go straight down and like refill that wellspring of your vitality down there in your kidneys that we need for our vitality long term. There are herbs that tonify Jing. And this is where it gets so sophisticated in my lineage, and why I'm so proud to have learned this, that we can help people get their adventure back and get their strength back, and want to go out and do that bike ride with us, and yeah, I'll come see that movie with you. Let's go, right? The herbs that tonify Jing, the great herb Ho Shou Wu, the great herb Rehmannia. I named myself after the great Jing herb.
Good to ask you about that.
Sistanch, Epimedium, Morinda, Schizandra, Goji. These are herbs that you may have heard of before. They tonify Jing. And so when you take these herbs, especially if you feel kind of debilitated, you feel weak, you're constantly getting sick, colds a lot, I was worried about that, not feeling lethargic, not feeling like you can pursue your creative dreams. And if you take the tonic herbs, the tonify Jing, you can slowly start feeling that foundation coming up and holding you. It's a beautiful experience to go through every day. Wow, I feel a little stronger. I feel a little more resilient, a little more ready to take on my life, and make it something great. And this is a beautiful journey when you begin it. And I'm just so proud to have learned this and to be able to convey this information at such a critical time in our evolution on this earth.
And I love the passion that is emanating out of you, as you talk through it. It's beautiful. And can I go back really quickly? You mentioned Rehmannia, your name, because of, some people will see your name, Dean Thomas Rehmannia. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
About the herb, or how I got
about the herb and the naming? Yeah, the herb, what is Rehmannia, or why we're the naming? Because I know the herbs have been calling you, clearly. But
well, Rehmannia had been a kind of an unsung hero but it is one of the top tonic herbs and tonifies Jing. The ancient masters said that Rehmannia is the kidney's own food, they called it. It is an incredible anti-aging herb, a vitality herb, fertility. But it was a little bit of an unsung hero. It wasn't known. Ho Shou Wu's the famous one somewhat. Ho Shou Wu's the one that says they make your hair black. So that herb means its name is old black-haired Mr. Ho. that's what Ho Shou Wu means. An old man named Mr. Ho turned his hair black. But when you tonify kidneys, yes, stuff like a pigment in the hair, and just that sense of youthfulness coming back. Rehmannia was famous for that, and I knew it, and I loved the herb a lot, and I thought it deserved its day in the spotlight. And so one night in 2009, I was in a sweat lodge in the Eden Retreat in Arizona, and a number of luminaries were in this sweat lodge with me, and in our world, and we were all just, and someone held up a shaker and said, anyone can take this and make any declaration you want. And I grabbed it first and I'm like, oh, my name is Rehmannia.
I love it. I love it. That's so fitting, actually.
Yeah.
And so many layers, and what you just mentioned is one part that I love is how, taking care of your health is not just about you. It's also about the what you're leaving behind also for your lineage, right? Because as you mentioned,
absolutely,
this is from our state right now is also coming from our ancestors, and what are we leaving to our lineage coming down the line?
Yes.
So
that is what I think back about the ancient masters long ago who developed this whole thing. I think they must have somehow foreseen what was coming for humanity as we populated the earth and started to decimate its natural habitat. What would probably inevitably happen from overpopulation and environmental impact of that. I think they saw it, and they were preparing for it all along. It is a very important time for us now to understand how to integrate the tonic herbs into our lives, because it is about our children. If our children are going to inherit a different world, they're going to inherit a world that they have to adapt to new extremes. And whether or not your belief about global warming or whatever it is, we can assume that our children are going to have to be able to adapt to other extremes that we were able to glide through to some degree. Other viruses could be coming, global weather change, to adapt. So when you tonify Jing in the kidneys, it increases your adaptability to stress. Let me explain this. Okay. The kidneys are this holding vessel of our life potential. They're found down in the back of the body, the lower back, on each side of the lower back, and the solar plexus is thought to be right there in the center of them. And that's where the Taoist masters believe that the cosmic chi comes in, the original cosmic chi that gives life comes in there at the solar plexus. And some of that is stored there in the kidneys. It is our body's gold vault. Now, the adrenals are like two little toboggan caps that sit right on top of the kidneys. The kidneys are two big black beans, and the adrenals are these little fuzzy, foamy looking little cap-shaped things sit there. The adrenals are like the hatch that lets us dip in and get some Jing when we're under times of duress or under stress. So when we want to reach down and it's like a little hatch, kind of open up and get a dipper down there and get some of that Jing out so that we can get through that stressful episode. And so the kidneys are like your life's ancestral savings account. The adrenals are your little ATM to draw some every day. Now, that's why the adrenals get fatigued, and the adrenals, after a certain amount of work, say, I'm done, I'm going to sleep, Yes. And you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, okay, I'm ready to go get a little coffee, maybe, little what we call false fire in there, because the standard American diet is not that much chi in it. So people take some coffee, right, get going, and they're going through their day again. And then at the end of that day, you've used up that little savings account, that little checking account, and you go, and your body goes, stop, okay, go sleep, And that's how our circadian rhythms work. Well, what's happening now? we are in this situation where the adrenals are like, I can't stop. I got to finish that deadline. I got to get that test. I got to study for that test. Oh my God, I got to, stay up for this or that, I'm under this stress. And so we're constantly, what the Chinese say, leaking Jing out, like the hatch is open and the Jing is being drawn out. And so the masters say, it's okay to be fatigued. Go home, go to sleep, eat a piece of chocolate cake, make love, watch a comedy, get in bed, enjoy and be intimate, right? Good. But since we're not doing that, we're dipping in, and the Chinese say it's okay to be fatigued, but not exhausted. Yeah. Now, when the fatigue continues on and we're not replenishing, we start to feel exhausted. This isn't good. That means you're dipping down and you're draining that savings account of your long-term energy and your Jing. We're all guilty of this. I don't like to use the word guilty, but we're all subjective to this in our lives. But that's what the masters had studied and documented, herbs that can refill that wellspring for us when we need it. And that translates into the adaptability of our adrenals to always be able to draw from that when we're under stress. And so when you tonify Jing in your kidneys, the stress trigger comes along and you respond to it in a state of empowerment. The stress trigger comes and you're like, right? But what happens if we have no Jing? The stress trigger comes. What happens? Oh, no. Because we don't have the strength to fight back, right? What does the robber do then? The robber's coming to you. The robber is the Jing trigger, the stress trigger. The thief comes at you, right? Two women walking along with their purse, right? One of them is and another's a big gal. They got their purses. They saw a movie. They're walking to their cars in the parking lot talking. All of a sudden, this guy comes out like this, right? Well, these two women respond in entirely different ways. One of them has a lot of Jing. She'd been eating right. Her parents nourished her as a kid, and they were nourished. She's not been under stress. She feels protected and loved. And she's walking along. Here comes this guy, and she just goes, and this is the little gal, right? Like that, right? And the big woman goes like this because she's been under a bunch of stress. She's been getting wiped out at work. Her husband doesn't love her. All of these things are just running her down. And then here comes this robber in front of her. She's debilitated because she doesn't have enough Jing to draw it. Which one of those two is the robber going to see in the eyes, see the weakness? Doesn't matter the other lady was petite. He's going to go try and grab the purse out of the one that had the weakness. That is life. That's the way life is. This is very evident in the animal world. The animals will look, the predators in Africa will watch a whole herd of bison or something and wait until they see the weakest one. And they'll watch and watch until they see the weakest one. And that's nature's way, right? You take out the weakest, right? This happens in the plant world and in everything. And so we want to be resilient against that thief that comes out at us like that brigand in the road is trying to rob us. We want to be able to go, get out of here. And we can do that. When we build up Jing, we're capable of that. Now, I'm not saying go out and get in harm's way and you got to always respond to every situation accordingly, right? But when we build up that Jing and we have that foundation, ideally, what the great masters said was that if we attain such a state of empowerment where we're living in a Tao of mind, body, and spirit, we can be living in a state that we refer to as beyond danger. Now, I don't mean, again, don't get yourself in front of danger. Don't go take some tonic herbs and then go walk around in the middle of the street. Okay, don't do that. But it's a cultivation of empowerment. That the funny thing is that life is a magical experience. And when we're really built up in that tonification of our kidneys and our Jing, and our daily energy needs are met because we're eating food with Qi in it, and then we're resonating empowerment. It seems like the Bakal energy doesn't seem to show up as much. It just doesn't seem to be there. The cacophonous energy. Our lives start to resonate a kind of a harmony. And then when we're resonating that harmony of that self-completeness, self-satisfaction, a feeling of accomplishment, and feeling of loving and being loved and having a place in the world, what happens is we start to radiate a brighter light. And that is the third treasure of the three treasures. Jing, the body itself and its capacity to reproduce. Qi, light and the energy of life. And the third treasure is called Shin. It is the light given back out. When we tonify Jing and Qi and live accordingly, eat accordingly, physically active, take the right tonic herbs, then we start to radiate a brighter auric light called Shin. What happens when we radiate that brighter light? Guess what? All life is attracted to the light. And suddenly we find ourselves, we're attractive. We're attracting others. We're attracting benevolence. We're attracting success. We're attracting financial security. We're attracting it. It's coming in. And then we're living in that state of that empowerment that is in the Tao. The three treasures, Jing, Qi, and Shen. And that's what we do. There are herbs that are classified to tonify Jing, other herbs that tonify Qi, and other herbs that tonify Shen. If you go to my Super Tonic Herbs site, supertonicherbs.com, I have formulas that tonify those three energies. My Shen formula is called Shift, and I've been taking that, and I'm telling you, it is like, wow. My sleep formula, Dream, is essentially a Shen formula. And then I have a formula called Essentia that's for women, for the spleen, for warming the spleen and nourishing the blood, which helps the menstrual cycle, called Upright Chi, very easy menstrual cycle, glowing skin, warm hands and feet, good daily bowel movements, energy going up, nice weight management, good metabolism. So those are herbs that tonify Chi and blood in my Essentia formula. And so you will see that my formulas reflect the incredible sophistication of what these great masters figured out 5,000 years ago, and has been in cultivation ever since, and still today extremely popular and revered throughout Asia.
And like you mentioned, it's more important than ever because we are so pulled all over, whether it's work, family, kids, gym, second job, third job.
Oh man.
Our energies are being pulled so all over the place, and people keep running on empty cups, and try to patch up with coffee or energy drinks, which are really just patch up and not really filling the cup, right?
Yeah.
And so, I was thinking some people in the audience who might be taking, let's say, I don't know, vitamins, for example, they may be wondering, well, I'm taking vitamins. What would be the difference between taking, for example, vitamins versus tonic herbs?
Well, many vitamins are synthetically derived, but where my personal philosophy is that nature already had the answers in its symbiosis. And so to take nature's symbiosis and extract one vitamin out of its substrate material and then concentrate it and give it to you, it is a laboratory fantasy that is a little bit trying to replicate the pharmaceutical models in like finding the active phytoconstituent through a laboratory process, isolating it and concentrating it. And the idea is that it should work more powerfully on the specific energy that is known to benefit, but that doesn't translate. It doesn't really work out. In fact, side effects wind up occurring. And this is why the ancient masters, and today still Chinese traditional medicine is still very popular there, where if someone goes to a doctor, they take a bunch of roots and sticks and leaves and rocks and stuff, and they put it in a clay pot and they boil it and you drink the tea. Because it already had all the answers in it. If you want vitamin C, you can get it in the orange peels. Just grind up some orange peels and put that in a capsule if you want. But like the symbiosis is what you want to look for. The symbiotic connections of everything, and this ideal of isolationist, reductionist chemistry is I'm not interested in it. I know that there are benefits. I know there are, but it could be very expensive. You're taking your zinc and your copper and your things, but there are ways to find these in ratios that are occurring in nature. Like for instance, Shilajit, the great Ayurvedic Rasayan Shilajit, is thought to have every single element in it in proper ratios for human health. And so Shilajit is considered a panacea for health. But if you, for instance, were to take everything that's in Shilajit and through some laboratory process, you broke it down and you extracted all 125 of the elements and then sold them each in a little bottle, you'd make a lot of money, you know. but but is it necessary? All right.
No, it's beautiful. And so for someone who was to start on their journey with the tonic herbs, where do you typically start? Do you start with kind of assessing where your chi is and then your jing, or how do you start on this journey?
Well, we traditionally do a pulse analysis where we read the pulse reading, and that is a way that you find out. I can tell the harmony of your jing and qi and other. We have 5 organ systems called meridians or energy. I can see all that there. But then oftentimes I'm speaking with someone remotely, but I love to do one-on-one consults, and we can get in there even online or in a Zoom sort of setting. So everyone who's watching this, and we'll make a special that if you want to get in touch with me, I know Lariah will have the information.
Exactly.
And I love to hear from people. The fact of the matter is, truly, I'm a very one-on-one person. In fact, I don't believe my dharma is to be this guy locked away behind a room doing everything digitally. That's not me. I am a one-on-one is my dharma. So I love to hear from people regarding how I can help personally guide you in. And also on my website, supertonicherbs.com, all of the formulas are described, but you can go there and make a comment to, write a comment to me. And I can respond to that. Or then my email is there as well. You just email me. But I do love to hear from everyone and help guide you on your paths of understanding. But believe me, it's a very common equation that we have here with applying the tonic herbs into your life. The 3 treasures are very distinct, observable, and so we can see them at work. With women, particularly in reproductive years, we particularly can always help tonify qi. To maintain nice weight, prevent water edema from building up. Water retention is edema, which is an issue that can dampen the spleen and further reduce the flow of qi. We want to help women with have regular moon cycles with the blood flowing to warm hands and feet, glowing skin. We call this upright qi. All of these factors are something that we can help every woman in reproductive years. And so those are herbs that tonify qi. They're always going to be beneficial for the most part. And then many times people need support for both qi and jing. Sometimes all 3 treasures. People could be under spiritual suppression, stress. They could be having hormonal imbalances, going through menopausal issues, andropausal issues, feeling lethargy, feeling drained, and at the same time, no daily energy and gaining weight. And all of these things can be occurring with, many people, right? And so we can see how to tonify all 3 treasures. And so my herb formulas work together very well. In fact, the tonic herbs there aren't many tonic herbs in all of Chinese herbology. And they're considered the superior class because they're kind of like the salad bar on your table, They're just like tonic herbs, like the salad bar, You want to put everything in the salad bar, right? And it's all good, And that tonic herbs went that way, but we can fine tune, to help you more quickly get to that point of homeostasis. And I'm really happy to help you do that. It's my passion.
Fantastic. Yes, I'll definitely be, and I'll thank you again for the gift for the audience, and I'll be sharing those links with everyone.
Yeah.
And is there anything else we'd like to add to the audience with the wisdom, the tonic herbs?
Well, just get in touch when you want. There is some information online. I wrote a book called Healing Thresholds about all this. It's you can find used. It's not published right now. My teacher's book, The Ancient Wisdom of the Tonic Herbs, is a great a book by Ron Teagarden. And study it. It's so fascinating, and it's fathomless the wisdom that these great masters perceived and documented for the sake of humanity. It's almost like a bottomless system of wisdom, a source of wisdom that I feel like is still I don't feel like an infant anymore, but I feel so like a young man, in this field. But every day, the tonic herbs, especially the herbs that tonify shin, they can make you. Each day you wake up with a new sort of a glimmering of enlightenment and reverence, and life becomes a really beautiful thing. Just make sure you eat right too. Eat well. Make sure your food is living. Think about whenever you're speaking with someone, say, how much sunlight is in the food you're eating? That ripe heirloom tomato is a bundle of sunlight. How much sunlight is in that box of pancake mix? And I've done this with people who never thought about their nutrition, and they go, oh, it kind of seems to be an equation that you can use to help others understand, that sunlight you're gathering is you, it's your expression, and it's all part of one thing.
No, I love that. I love that because I know even myself more and more as I buy my grocery, it's always about how nourishing is this food? Is it depleting or is it nourishing my chi, right? And it's so essential, especially nowadays with the food being so processed in the stores. And so
it is. And there's so many little things. If you go into large chain grocery stores, that produce department looks real pretty. That stuff looks real pretty, but I don't know how much jing and chi there is in some of it. It's grown, it's picked unripe. It's traveled long distances. It's grown in a massive field of just that one type of plant. That's pretty odd. I don't think nature works that way. So there's all the considerations, truly your little small local farmers market farmers are the best. And you can ask them two questions. One, when did you pick this stuff? If they say last night at 3 a.m. in the morning, before we came here, okay, perfect, because it's right. And then you can ask them how large their farm is. And I usually like to buy my produce from a farm that's an acre or no more than 2 acres. Because if it's larger than that, they might have to start using some kind of chemical or if it's smaller than an acre, they can do human interventions of pest interventions and things like that. But once it gets larger, it might be more difficult. So you always want to ask about the size of the farm, when it was picked, and get to know them, get to know your farmers and tell them you love them.
Definitely, because they're nourishing your vessel. So definitely.
They are. I've worked with farmers and they really, really care. And they really care. A lot of farmers really care about our well-being and want us to have healthy food, and so developing a relationship with them is nice.
And I was thinking as well, me living in England, where we don't get a lot of sun. This is where also the tonic herbs that's really help as well. Those you think about even the winter, right, where we don't have a lot of sun. It's definitely a way to also replenish that energy fuel to our body.
Well, in the wintertime, I think one of the best foods to eat a lot of is fermented foods. So if you're really into a thing where you're in your own kind of survival, self-sufficiency thing, you can take the food that you grew in the summer and pickle it all and then live on it through the winter. And then, of course, you store your legumes and your beans and potatoes and things like that. Keep the potatoes buried in a bucket of dirt, stuff like that. There's a lot of little fascinating things that we can do. And then in the winter, you want to eat more soups and stocks and more fermented foods. Bundle up better. You sleep longer hours. So the winter is when we're replenishing jing. We sleep longer. We eat warm foods. We bundle up and stay warm. All that is the time of yin, the taking in and storing of energy. And summer is the time of yang, to put all that out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Go raw in the summer, eat your cooling raw foods, raw juices. Spring, do your green juice fast. And fast off some of the weight you gained during winter when you were lethargic and eating all those soups, stocks, and breads and everything. Winter, do a little green juice fast, cleanse the liver out. Spring, do your green juice fast, cleanse the liver. Summer, all raw. And then winter, you start going back to fall, starchy foods. Winter, back to your soups and stocks. But the tonic herbs can be taken all year.
Exactly. Wow. This was fantastic. I learned so much myself.
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Lynn. It's
no,
great to
thank
get this out for.
I'm so excited to bring this to the audience because we don't realize we think about purpose and the external, but you have to first start within. And within is your body, your vessel. How do you take care of
Yeah.
it to make
Yes,
sure
indeed.
that then you can
Yes,
be
indeed.
aligned, right?
Yeah.
Mind,
Yes.
body, and spirit. So
Yeah.